Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Words of wisdom this morning. When you pray for others, God listens to you and blesses them. And sometimes when you are safe and happy, remember that someone has prayed for you. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance on a Wednesday. Good morning, good morning. Thank you very much. There she is, the beautiful voice of Kate Smith, and God bless America. Good morning, everybody. I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, and, of course, we're brought to you by our major corporate sponsor, and that's, of course, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, and they include Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland Avenue in Burley, and let's not forget our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service. Call Kelly and the crew at 734-6969. Good morning, Gina.
Good morning, sunshine. And how are we on this fine Wednesday?
You sound so different when you turn your mic on and say, in such a subtle, kind of a shy, retiring voice, "Good morning, sunshine." Oh, my goodness.
It's better than 5 minutes ago. Yeah, what do you want?
Yeah, that's basically, it's like that cartoon I had when I was a junior in high school. I found this cartoon. I won't phrase it exactly as the bottom was phrased, but right. Picture this. It's late at night, and there's a cleaning woman standing in an office, cleaning an office and answering the phone, and she said, "Madam Hildegard's Charm School, what the heck do you want?"
Yeah, that would be me, actually, in the morning.
Oh, do we have a pledge this morning?
We actually have somebody new for the pledge. It's Dell Anderson, and then we do have Michael Rogers on for the weather. Well,
very good. Dell, go ahead, please. I'm looking forward to it.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very well done. Call us again and do it again, would you please?
Will do.
All right, sir. God bless. Thank you very much. Man, that was great. Thank you. And right now, the one, the only, Michael Rogers. Weather. Good morning, Michael.
Morning, 59 in Murtaugh. Real simple with our weather for like about 10 days. Sunny and hot. Temperatures in the 80s all the way across the board. Overnight lows are in the 50s, and that's about it. There isn't too much more to talk about. If you're curious about the bad weather, that's east of you. It's also north of you. And pretty much out west is going to be sunny and hot as you work your way towards summer. Idaho is traditionally famous for starting summer a couple of weeks early, so it looks like you're going to get started real early as you work your way into July. That's it. Enjoy the weather. Tell me whether you got it.
All right. There is the man, MichaelRogersWeather.com, and the weather forecast for our Magic Valley. Thank you very much. Hey, big roping tonight at the Jerome County Fairgrounds. That's right. My buddy Dave Zanino is the producer for these ropings. It's a series every Wednesday night. Jerome County Fairgrounds. Sign up at 6:30, rope at 7, 3 for $20 draw pot. Enter 6 times. Once again, that's tonight at the Jerome County Fairgrounds. I know old David's getting the horses ready and all the steers ready and horn wrapped, and they're going to be ready all to go at 6:30 tonight with the entries. Rope at 7. In just a moment, we are going to give away 2 tickets to the Classics on the Grass car show that's coming up at the Cache County Fairgrounds this weekend in Burley. So stay tuned. I'm going to get to that right after I pay some bills, all right? We'll be right back with that. Valley-wide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Hello, Steve. Hello, Mandy. Hello, everybody. What a great place to go. And they've got everything. They've got their own feed mill, and they've got all the feed for all your livestock. And, of course, they have everything the 4-H'ers need, all the supplies, all the equipment, everything, and 4-H'ers get 10% off. You better stop in there today. And they got the Gallagher fencing and all the dog and kitty cat food, everything you need for the farm, the family, and the home. So you get in there today. Valley-wide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. They're waiting right now to serve you. Also, our thanks go out to some folks that have been with us on this program for many, many years. And that's, of course, Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. And they've got light bulbs. They got all your lights. They also have 4-foot and 8-foot tubes, which you cannot find anymore. They've got them over there at Ramsey Heating and Electric. And they've got all the fuses from 1 to 600 amps. And I'll tell you what, when it comes to electrical needs, they are ready to serve you. Call ahead. They'll have your order waiting for you at 678-0459. That number again, 678-0459. Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they always provide warm winters and cool summers. We're going to give away a ticket. 2 tickets right now to the Classics on the Grass car show. And first person that calls in with the right answer, and this is really an easy one, I think. So you'll get 2 tickets, and you can go over to the studio where Gina is and redeem these tickets. Pick them up, okay? What truck commercial does Western actor Sam Elliott do the voiceover for? What truck commercial does Western actor Sean Elliott do the voiceover for? Give me a call real quick, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. What truck commercial does Western actor Sam Elliott do the voiceover for, okay? Give us a call. We'll give you 2 tickets to the Classics on the Grass, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. That is an easy one, so give us a call. Come on, real fast, 2 tickets for the Classics on the Grass. I'm surprised somebody hasn't called in yet. I made that one especially easy. Give us a jingle real fast, and while we're waiting for your call that I know is coming in, we also want to have our tip of the coffee cup. And Gina, if you're ready with that slurp of the coffee cup, it goes this morning to the Keith Ramsey family. Also, Kevin and Cindy over at Darrow's Cleaners. So give them the slurp, if you would, please.
That is so good.
There you go. Tip of the coffee cup to some really nice people. Let's take this call and see if they've got the right answer. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. It's the Ford commercial.
No, it is not.
Well, my goodness, I would have swore it was.
No, ma'am, but thank you for your time this morning. I appreciate it. Thank you. Nice try. So that kind of narrows it down a little bit. And once again, I'll ask the question, what truck commercial does Western actor Sam Elliott do the voiceover for? Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Hi, Dodge Ram.
That's right. Who's calling?
Lillian Wright.
Lillian Wright, is that correct?
Yes.
Well, Lillian, get on over to the station. You just won 2 tickets to the Classics on the Grass car show coming up this weekend at the Cache County Fairgrounds. Congratulations, and thank you for your answer this morning.
Thank you.
Oh, God bless you. Have a good day. That's right. Sam Elliott does the Ram Tough commercials, okay? And thank you very much. Lillian Wright is the winner. We'll give some more tickets away tomorrow on the program, and if I have time, maybe even one or two later on this morning. Hey, by the way, Denny's Restaurant, before we get into the thick of things this morning, I want to remind you about Denny's Restaurant and Thomas and the rest of the crew at 611 Overland in Burley. You know what? They've got gift cards. You can stop in and buy some of those gift cards to give to your friends, relatives, neighbors, whatever, and boy, what a nice gift, and just share with them the wealth of knowing this is a great place to eat. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner, anytime, all the time. And gift cards would be a really treasured gift at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. And we'll be naming the day for our next lunch bunch coming up in a couple of days. So don't worry about it. We'll tell you all about it right here on Zeb at the Ranch. Denny's Restaurant, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Great, great place to go eat. I'm getting a text from Gina. That's a good question because I was told you had them over there.
No, I don't.
Well, Lillian, I'll tell you what, the tickets are going to be delivered to the station. Jimmy Flowers, if you're listening, jump in the car and take them over to the station, please, because that's where they were supposed to be when I was told that they would be there. Gina, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, don't worry about it. They might be up front, but I haven't seen them, so I know nothing about it.
Okay, well, we'll do a little detective work and find out where they are. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to get really serious here this morning. And later on this morning at 10:30, we're going to have veteran Mike Greenwell on the phone with us, and we're going to get his perspective on this Bowe Bergdahl problem. I had some more calls on my cell phone yesterday. Some people said, oh, you're beleaguering something that isn't as big a deal as it's perceived to be. How can they say that? How can people whitewash this thing and minimize this story? Okay, now here's the deal. A couple of days ago on this program, I told you my opinion was that the White House and this administration would try to whitewash, sanitize, and blame others regarding this exchange, whatever you want to call it, with the 5 terrorist Muslim killers going back to their homeland in exchange for Bowe Bergdahl. And Bowe Bergdahl, with very, very questionable motives as he walked away from his base, desertion comes into play, and then there's also discussions as to whether or not he was actually collaborating with the Taliban. Now, I saw the video this morning of Bergdahl being released back into our military's hands. I saw him in the vehicle. I saw him get out of the vehicle. I saw him walking towards the chopper. I saw him being searched by our military for possible weapons. And I'll be honest with you, he didn't look like he was standing at death's door, health-wise, to me. Not one little bit. There was a smirk on his face, sitting in the car looking at the cameraman. And I'm sorry, folks, I'm not buying into this story. I'm not going to buy into this story. This morning at 6:30 Eastern Time, Specialist John Fuller, that served with Bergdahl, stated emphatically, and I want you to pay attention to this, because I've been taking some heat for being critical of Bowe Bergdahl and critical of his family. So be it. I'm being very open about the facts that have been presented in this case. Specialist John Fuller served with Bergdahl and stated emphatically this morning that Bergdahl deserted. Now, number one, there was no hedging around the old flagpole. He just said Bergdahl deserted. And here's something to think about. This man, John Fuller, that served with Bergdahl, said that attacks on the base where they resided were much more precise after Bergdahl was gone. And he intimated that perhaps Bowe Bergdahl was providing information to the Taliban for their attacks on the base. They knew where the motor pool was, they knew where all the weapons were stored, equipment was stored, etc. They were much more, in his words, precise. Now, here's something else that really bothers me, and I said this the other day, and I stand behind it. I said that Obama, with the releasing of these 5 Muslim terrorist killers, has a mess on his hands. And the State Department now is coming out, and they're discrediting all of the soldiers that have come out and said that Bergdahl was a deserter. And how do they discredit all these soldiers? How do they discredit the leaders of their platoons? How do they discredit these people? This is shameful. And there is an opportunity for more discussion. There is an opportunity for more investigation. But now I wonder if it's going to take place with our State Department. Or are they in a cover-up mode right now? You should be very concerned about this, audience, and you should be calling. Because 75 miles to the north, that's where the family lives, and Bergdahl was raised. And there's all kinds of things that are coming out about this case that make it stink. And what really makes it stink is also our local newspaper, the Times News. I'll tell you why right after this. Don't forget 4 Paws Bed and Bath, 370 West, 200 south of Rupert. And they offer free pickup and delivery for senior citizens 65 and older that need their dogs groomed or boarded or daycare. All you have to do is just give them a call at 438-4444. Make an appointment, and I'll tell you what, they would just love to help you. These are really nice people that absolutely care about dogs and cats. 4 Paws Bed and Bath, 370 West, 200 south of Rupert. And don't forget the Kids Canine Camp coming up on Saturday, June 14th from 10 to 4. We'll be telling you more about that later. And 4 Paws Bed and Bath, 438-4444. Calls are welcome, and I'm surprised people aren't speaking out about this. I really would like to hear from you, so give us a jingle on the landline. The Times News editorial this morning, doggone it, come on, Times News. Anybody can have an opinion, anybody can be liberal, anybody can be conservative. But now the liberals, the loony left, they are turning this thing and turning the story around to where the scandal is the fault of Republicans looking to go after Obama again. I'm not kidding you. There's a paragraph in this op-ed this morning in the Times News that says, quote, "Their Republican peers, always hip to blast the White House, aren't showing such discretion. Frankly, most congressional Republicans are on the warpath, as is the right-wing blogosphere, because of the White House's illegal swap of 5 Guantanamo Bay detainees, the human currency that bought Bergdahl's liberation." There's always this slam against the Republicans. There's always this dig at the Republicans. Well, it's nothing more than just another attack on the president. And then they go after, in this op-ed piece, the main theme of the op-ed piece was to go and denigrate Idaho's leaders because they haven't come out and said too much about Bergdahl and this trade. You know, leave it to people like us. Leave it to the media and journalists and everything else. Why do these people want to step out and say too much right now without knowing every single thing? And I don't blame Risch or Crapo or Simpson for being a little hesitant. Because as this story turns daily, there's always new facts, like what I just reported this morning about Specialist John Fuller being told that he should shut up. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
I was watching Ollie North last night, and remember when that Bergdahl first left his base, Ollie put the bracelet on in support of him. He took it off last night in front of Hannity.
I know he did.
That shows right there that something's going on, and people just better pay attention, because if they let this ride, then there's no sense of having military justice.
Al, now I want to ask you, because I mean this in all respect, but you are a political and news junkie, and if I mention a story to you, you probably have seen it and watched it. Did you watch that blonde from the State Department with the black horn rimmed glasses basically shine on the question by the reporter and denigrate all the soldiers' remarks about Bowe Bergdahl and say that they were wrong?
Yeah, It's coming from the left, and I mean, these damn people are trying to fight and keep them safe, and they got the right to sit there and spout off the mouth, and they don't know a damn thing about military, usually. And if it goes back to where it used to be, the military was, it should be, and I always will say it is, it's a place of honor and distinction.
Al,
okay, do they want to revert back to when you went and deserted your post back in the World War I and the Civil Wars? You deserted, you were shot, or they marked you with a big D on your cheek or your forehead?
Yep.
Is that what they want?
Al, there was a call that came into my house the other day, and these people really ran me down, and they said, what have you got against the Bergdahl family and Bowe Bergdahl? And I said, absolutely nothing. Nothing. But I said, as I look into this story, and I call the people that are back in Washington, D.C., that are right in the midst of this thing as reporters for the Washington Post, New York Times, every Newsmax, the list goes on. I'm working with them daily, and I'm finding out more statistics about what's going on with Bergdahl and the desertion and the other troops. Here's the bottom line. My buddies from high school and college that went to Vietnam, they didn't desert. They stayed there, they fought, and quite frankly, many of them died there. And I won't have anybody, regardless of whether they're from Idaho or whether they're from Tucumcari, New Mexico, deserting their post and putting others at risk without reporting it on the news.
Well, when I seen Ollie North do that, I thought, well, he knows something's going on, and I can't blame him for that, but at least he tried to support him. So lead on, Ollie North, because you're one hell of a good hero, as far as I'm concerned.
All right, Al. Appreciate your call this morning. Thank you very much.
You bet, Bob.
All right. Yeah, I'm writing about this in the blog, Cow Pies and Coffee Cups, this week, and I'm very embittered about this. The buddies that I had in high school and college that served over in Vietnam, they didn't desert. They didn't walk away from their post. They didn't damn America. And they never came home, with the exception of being in a box. Some they never found. And I'm going to stand here and stay here on this program as a journalist and look at things, study the facts, and report them as they are. And not be like the Times News to always shift the blame and the controversy to someone else. Travel Lube Supply, 1050 West, 203 South of Hayburn, 438-8730. That's the number to call. They've got all your bolts, metric and standard bolts. They've got all the sprayer parts. By the way, if you'll mention to them when you call 438-8730, hey, I heard it on Zeb's program, you'll get as much as 50% off on those sprayer parts. Holy cow. And all the tools, all the oils, everything at Travel Lube Supply. Jim McCall, great guy. Travel Lube Supply, 438-8730. They deliver the goods. It's time now for the Capital Press Ag Minute, and the Capital Press Ag Minute is brought to you by Lennox Home Comfort Systems, and of course, those Lennox Home Comfort Systems through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Here's the Capital Press Ag Minute.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly.
The Idaho State Department of Agriculture is accepting more applications for its 2014 Specialty Crop Block Grant Program. The initial deadline to apply for the grant funding this year was April 11th, and the ISDA received 21 applications for specialty crop grants this year, 5 fewer than last year's record total of 26. The department unexpectedly received twice as much funding from the USDA for the programs this year, but was notified right before the application deadline and wasn't able to inform Idaho's specialty crop industry before then. The ISDA will accept additional applications through June 20th. Projects must solely enhance the competitiveness of specialty crops grown in the United States. With the Capital Press Ag Minute, this is Hannah Brous.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and CapitalPress.com.
Hey, calls are welcome, 436-2244. Get up off the couch, give me a call, and don't forget Father's Day's coming up pretty quick, fast, right around the corner. Mad River Laser, 700 South Oneida and Rupert. Oh, Nicole and the crew And they've got buck knives over there. Now, I love pocket knives. And you go get a buck knife for Dad, 10% off if you mention you heard it on my program. And they will give you free laser engraving. This is neat. Yes, Dad would love that. And they've got all the T-shirts and sweatshirts and everything else. Mad River Lasers, 700 South Oneida in Rupert. You stop in and see them for Father's Day. And they're going to be moving soon to the Rupert Square. And don't forget, too, the Book Plaza at 222 West 11th Street in Burley. Colonel Dale and his books. I mean, thousands and thousands of books. 3 floors of books and lots of good gift ideas for Dad on Father's Day at the Book Plaza, 222 West 11th Street in Burley. You stop in and see them today. All right, let's get some calls. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I got to do this next little story, and I'm going to include Gina in this story as a young mom of a 7-year-old boy. Gina, are you right there? She's probably on the phone right now. Or
I was curling the hair, actually.
You were combing your hair?
Curling the hair.
Curling your hair. Now I know why I have you as the best board operator in the United States, so you can curl your hair.
I'm a good multitasker.
Oh, my. Hey, but listen, in all seriousness,
okay.
I don't know if you heard about this story or not, but it bears mentioning this morning because I think it just shows how absolutely on the brink of insanity our society is. There was a 5-year-old girl in Florida, pardon me, I believe she's in Florida. 5-year-old girl that wants to be a boy.
What?
Yep, I emphasize, 5-year-old girl that wants to be a boy, and the parents are going along with the wishes.
She's 5. She doesn't know what she wants. Next week she's going to want a Barbie doll.
I cannot believe this garbage, and that's what it is. I absolutely think our society is going to the point of insanity with the gay, lesbian, and transgender. And this little girl evidently thinks it'd be cooler to be a little boy, so now the parents are going along with this. They're not making preparations right now for the surgeries, but they're talking about it in the future, and also they are changing the modus operandi of the dressing, and now this little girl is dressing up strictly as a boy with the hair combed that way and everything else.
Oh, my goodness. I can't fathom that because, you know, kids are kids, and sure, one moment this little girl wants to be a tomboy, which let her be a tomboy, let her climb the trees and do the things like that, but whoa.
This is so perverted and so sick, and then people, you know, the left loons in this country, oh, well, people have got to be people, you know, people are born in the wrong gender. No, God does not make mistakes, and I'm going to stand up and I'm going to say that to my last day. God does not make mistakes. And for this parent, both of these parents, to sit there and aid and abet this perverse attitude it's the worst thing I've ever heard.
Okay, so I'm hoping that they're not going to go through with any sort of operation because that's going to totally mess with this child.
Oh, destroy mentally. And many psychologists that have been interviewed.
Everything else? Oh, my gosh.
Many psychologists that have been interviewed, and you know this is true, they say, especially with younger children and everything, it's like you said, a passing fancy, a fad, etc., and they revert back to what they are naturally and want to live their life that way. My goodness, a 5-year-old girl, they have no concept, and the parents are aiding and abetting this situation.
I think, encourage the little girl to be a tomboy and to, go out and play in the dirt and play in the rocks and climb the trees and stuff like that. I was that kind of a kid. I was very much a tomboy growing up. But, I'm still a girl.
I'm sorry, but our society is going to hell in a handbasket.
Oh, my goodness.
This is so sick.
Research on that story.
Yeah, when you read it, you're going to sit back and your jaw's going to drop down and you're going to go, oh, my gosh. Yeah. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Hey, by the way, you want to go to Seattle next month, Gina?
I would love to go to Seattle.
She had that hair curler in her hand again.
I did too.
Well, if you go to Seattle next month, guess what you can buy up there and sit down at a table outside in downtown Seattle and enjoy. Underline the word enjoy.
Pot-flavored marijuana.
Marijuana coffee.
What?
Marijuana coffee.
By Starbucks?
They're going to be selling it at coffee shops all over Seattle next month.
So THC-infused coffee.
You know, this is just, what is going on in our society? Are there no rules, no regulations, no morals, no right and wrongs? I mean, my goodness sakes. Hey, let's go down before we go to work and we'll get higher than a kite on some Starbucks. This is crazy.
Everybody wants to have a good buzz before they go to work.
Now, as an employer, I guess they don't have any rights anymore. Somebody comes in and they're walking with their loafers about 3 inches off the ground. What did you have this morning? Well, just coffee, boss. Yeah, laced with marijuana, and they're hiring a kite.
Oh, wow. I'm surprised that they're actually doing that. I am so shocked. And is it Starbucks that's doing it?
Well, I'm not putting the blame on Starbucks. I just used their name as an example. But they are saying, not they, Starbucks, but the news story this morning that came out is that marijuana-laced coffee will be available for sale next month at many locations all over Seattle.
Wow. Magic coffee.
You know, think about this.
Got a phone call, too.
Okay, well, let's take that call, and then we'll come back to this. Caller, good morning. Do you think, like I do, society is going right down like Archie Bunker used to say, the turlet?
Yes, I do. How would a little 5-year-old child get an idea that they wanted to be a boy?
You tell me. I thought of the same thing.
Grandchildren.
Yeah, how in the world does this seed...
The things that their parents instill within them.
Yeah. I can't answer your question, Lorna. I mean, I'm sitting here. I saw the story. I watched the parents as they kind of mollycoddled this little child. Oh, well, she wants to be a boy, so we're going to go along with it and not damage its psyche. I mean, how do you call it, a boy and or what, a girl? I don't know. This is absolute sickness.
It is, and some adult has put that idea in that kid's head and keeps on with it.
Yeah.
Because no 5-year-old would just say, oh, I want to be a boy instead of a girl.
Yeah, and you know something? What does it say about the parents? What does it say about the parents just being so liberal and absolutely no rules, anything goes, the kids run the house. Oh, you want to be a little boy? Okay, well, we'll promote that then. You use a little boy's restrooms. You dress up in little boy's clothes. We'll make sure that when you go to school, we're going to have everybody call you a boy. This is pathetic.
It is absolutely pathetic.
Thank you for your call this morning. I appreciate it, Lorna. Thank you very much.
You have a great day.
God bless. This is what's going on with society. One story, we've got a 5-year-old girl wants to become a 5-year-old boy. Another story, we got it in Seattle. You can go to work higher than a kite drinking marijuana-laced coffee. Holy buckets. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Hey, by the way, Barry Equipment and Rental, 3 locations here in the Magic Valley to serve you. Wow. You need to lease or buy equipment? Well, this is the place. Look no further than Barry Equipment and Rental. Eli and the whole crew, I'm telling you, they've got it for you. They've got all the loaders. They've got all the excavators. They've got all the Coyote tractors. They've got all the Doosan equipment. They've got the Bobcats. They've got the Walker mower. What are you waiting for? Get over there. Any one of the locations to serve you. That's right. Addison Avenue West, Twin Falls, South Lincoln and Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Nick and the crew over there, they're just chomping on the bit, waiting to serve you at Barry Equipment and Rental. You stop in and see them today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
About your marijuana coffee.
Now, wait a minute. I didn't like that, the way you phrased it, about your marijuana coffee. Please don't say that associated with me.
Okay. You know, people can do what they want to as long as they do it in their own home, but what concerns me about this situation is that if they get on the road and drive a car on my highway, I'm also on the highway.
You know, when you talk about this marijuana problem and the legality or illegality of it in various places, and other states want to legalize it, you know, like the Denver, Colorado area and everything, let me ask you something. Whether it's a sports team that goes into play in a certain area where marijuana is legal, but they get involved in it, some of the players get involved in it, some of the players take it back home. I mean, we're exacerbating a very illicit start to drugs as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I'm totally against it, to be honest with you. It's the thing with drinking, you know. It's the same thing with drinking. It's a drug, and if they get on the road and they're intoxicated, it's also a danger to me and my family.
I agree.
You know, that's the one thing that concerns me about it. If they want to smoke themselves into oblivion, that's fine. Just stay home.
Yeah, but what about the employer? I want you to answer that quick. And caller number 2, don't go away. I'll be right there. What about employers? Have they lost the right to have decent-minded people working for them? They don't have to worry about them coming to the newspaper office or the insurance office hiring a kite in the morning. What about the employers?
The employer's the same thing as the car deal. I mean, if you're working for somebody, you're representing them. If you're representing them, you don't want them stoned.
That's right. I agree. And I just absolutely... and you know what I think is going to happen? Somewhere in our society where it's supposedly, quote-unquote, legal for this type of garbage, they're going to start passing laws against the employers not to take action against their employees. What do you bet?
You know what? It wouldn't surprise me with the carbon tax and all the other stupid things that's coming down the pipeline. It wouldn't surprise me.
Amen. God bless you for your call. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Appreciate it. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. I wanted to talk to you about the 5-year-old girl.
Yes.
I have a daughter, and when she was born and she got to crawling around and everything, she hated her dresses. And she is absolutely a tomboy. She has never liked girl dolls or anything. She was a tomboy from the time she was born. She's in her 50s now, but she would never, ever agree to change to a boy.
Okay, now answer this question then. What about the parents aiding and abetting this, I think, very perverted thought? What are your thoughts about the parents? I've got my own thoughts, believe me, and I think they need psychiatric help.
I do too, and I think, which they can't do, but I think the law needs to take the girl away from the parents.
You know, that's interesting to hear you say that, because initially when I saw the story this morning, I said to myself, you know what? These parents not only need psychiatric help, they need child protective services to step in and say, wait a minute, what are you doing to this child? You're destroying the image of what this child is. And I still go back to the old statement that I've made on this program, God does not make mistakes.
I agree. I have a sister that every time she would come to visit me and my daughter was in pants instead of a dress, she got on to me constantly. And I said, she doesn't like girl things. She's a tomboy, so leave her be.
But she grew up to have the respect for who she was and what she was.
Oh, yes. Yeah, she's a truck driver. She's been driving a truck for about 25 years and dearly loves it.
Uh-huh. You know, I respect that. I think that there are women out there, and I respect them if they want to drive truck, or if they, I know a lot of gals that want to be, let's say, horse trainers. A lot of girls want to run their own farm and everything. I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong with wearing a pair of Wranglers, but what I do see wrong is when we don't accept and appreciate the gender that God gave us when we were born.
Oh, I agree. And she is a very happy lady. Right now, she's very sad. She just lost her husband. Oh,
my, I'm sorry. I really am. Listen, I say thank you to you for your call. God bless you and have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
You know, this sick and perverse attitude that the genders, and anybody can say, well, I'm not happy being this, I think I'll be this, and then passing the bill along to you and I, the taxpayers, like for special bathrooms or for changing in our society, like they've done in a lot of schools now, forcing schools by law to say, well, you've got to say this boy thinks he's a girl, so he can use the girls' restroom. And or for PE, physical education, you got to let him in the girls' locker room. No! No. Parents, we got to put our foot down. This is, the best word to use, obscene and ridiculous. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. Time for a weather update real quick. Here's Michael Rogers Weather.
Hello, I'm Michael Rogers for MichaelRogersWeather.com. Not going to waste your time nor take you for granted. You got a nice day all the way through next week. A lot of sun, very little clouds. Temperatures are in the 80s. This is like, wow. Yeah, it's going to be nice all the way through the weekend, so enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. We appreciate that weather update. Michael Rogers Weather. All right, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. By the way, there's another story I want to throw at you real quick this morning. You're on a flight from back east going into Denver, okay? Just imagine with me. We're all on the same airplane, okay? And all of a sudden on the intercom, the co-pilot of the plane says, "May I have your attention, please? Can anyone here on this flight fly this plane?" What? I'm not kidding. That happened on a United flight. Just recently, a flight bound for Denver, Colorado, the pilot had a heart attack. Boom, slumps over in the seat. And the female co-pilot got on the intercom and basically said, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your co-pilot, and does anyone on this flight have flying experience?" Now, right there, if I were one of those passengers, I would have felt a rather cold chill go down my backbone when you hear the co-pilot saying, "Can anybody fly this plane?" Well, it so happens that there was on the flight with his family a B-1 bomber pilot. And his wife nudged him and she said, "Hey, you better help out. It sounds serious." And so he raised his hand, and the stewardess came over and got him, took him up to the front of the plane, and she said, "Our pilot had a heart attack, and we need some help with the co-pilot, and you will assist her in landing this plane in Omaha, Nebraska." And he said he would. He got in the cockpit and sat in the seat, did all the radio work and everything else, and the plane landed safely, and everybody is A-OK, and the rest of the passengers gave him and the co-pilot a great big round of applause. But it still goes back to, how would you feel, honestly? You're sitting there in an airplane, and all of a sudden the co-pilot says, "I beg your pardon, ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention? Can anybody fly this plane?" Woo! Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. That'd make me want to start praying.
I tell you what, the seat cushion is for a flotation device, and it might be floating.
Yes, very true, very true. About that little 5-year-old girl, my thought is, how did that thought get put in her head?
Good question.
It had to be some adult had to put that thought in her head, because I cannot think of a 5-year-old girl or boy thinking, "Oh, I want to be something else."
Yeah, you know, Doug, when you bring that up, that's worth looking into as far as the crux of the whole story. How did this seed get planted so that a 5-year-old, I mean, I can't even remember when I was 5 years old. A 5-year-old's going to think about gender transformation?
No. A 5-year-old's going to think about what he's going to play with, what he's going to have for breakfast and lunch, and if he can get a snack that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good question about who did it and for what purpose. And again, I lay the blame at the feet of the parents. This absolutely stinks as far as I'm concerned.
Well, the blame is at the parents' feet. Whenever a child goes astray, 90% of the time, the parents did not teach the child properly.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to raise a child to think and be rational.
Well, how old are you, Doug, right now?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm 62.
All right, well, I got a few years on you, not many. But, think back 50 years. Okay, think back 50 years. And this transgenderism, this sickness, this perversity, it wasn't around when we were little kids, bucko. This thing is just growing like a cancer.
When I was 5 years old, I was hoping that my dad would forget about me and go out to the field and work and leave me at the house. But I was out in the field working, right alongside of him.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, there wasn't.
And
well, you have a good day, Zeb.
God bless you. I appreciate your thought. That's a good point about who planted that seed, and I don't have the answer to that. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Oh, and one other thing to worry about, as if you didn't have enough on your plate already this morning, drug smugglers on the Mexican border are now taking vehicles that are comparable to what our Border Patrol and other government agencies drive, and they're taking them into car shops, mechanic shops, painting them the exact color as our government vehicles, and they're falsifying through printing methods the decals like U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and they're painting them up just like our vehicles so that they can run across the border and smuggle drugs. Yeah, well, here comes the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Hi, Mert. Hi, Ernie. How you doing? And they drive by and they wave as they deliver their drugs from Mexico. Holy cow. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Zeb.
Hello, Tony.
Oh, just to pass on a little information off of Channel 28 this morning. Al-Qaeda is now bragging about how beneficial to their movement this Bergdahl trade was.
Oh, absolutely.
So I just thought I'd pass that on.
Did you see the video of all the hugs and the kisses and the slaps on the back and everything as they, the terrorists, welcome back into the fold these 5 heinous vermin killers? I mean, I was just sickened by that, knowing, and you know it too, Tony, that these guys are going to be plotting and planning to kill us, other Americans, in the very near future.
Going back to something that stuck in my craw about these training camps, I bet these guys that are running these terrorist training camps in this country right now are jumping with joy.
Oh, my, yeah. We are putting Americans at risk all over the globe, not only with the return of these terrorists, but now that we've opened up this Pandora's box of trading some of their vermin, their Muslim terrorist killers for our people, the end is never going to be in sight. Any American anywhere in the world is not safe anymore today.
Well, this call for gun control by Barack Obama is really going to hit a high spot now that disarmed the American people. This is another thing we have to be careful of.
Well, I'll tell you what, now's the time to invest anything and everything you have as extra cash in ammunition and more guns, because that's the way I feel. I'm going to come right out and say it. I'm an advocate of self-protection, and I think we need more so that today more than ever before.
I'm with you 100%.
All right, Tony, thanks. God bless. Have a good day. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You bet. Calls are welcome, 436-2244-186-927-4587. Oh, the liberals will hate that. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all the tires, all the tread designs for all the different driving needs on all the vehicles, all your cars and your pickups and your SUVs, your horse trailers, boat trailers, whatever you need tires on. And I'm telling you the best. And they've got easy credit plans available. 4 different plans are available, and you just stop in and talk to these folks, and they can and will work with you, along with the best in brake service, the very best in shocks and struts, front-end alignments, batteries, and the fancy custom wheels. Woo, they got some good ones. And you're going to love the service. Nobody does it better than your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Give us a call. We got time. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Yesterday, as you know, we had Andy Johnson on the program, and he was the Wyoming gentleman that built the pond and had all the state permits, everything legal, and then all of a sudden, after he built this nice little farm pond, stocked it with trout and other fish, and it was available for wildlife to come in and water, and his own horses and everything. Very, very nicely done. The EPA came in and told him they're going to start fining him a minimum of $75,000 a day, and he basically told them to... Well, that's what he told him, and he's fighting it. Well, SaveTheStockPond.com. SaveTheStockPond.com. I ask you to contribute and help fight the EPA. They are nothing more than a bunch of thugs and punks, comparable to being the mafia. And they have taken their own self-absorbed powers to overrun you and I absolutely salute Andy Johnson and his family over at Fort Bridger, Wyoming. And I personally am going to send him a little bit of money to help fight this thing with the EPA, and I hope you do too. A couple of our listeners called yesterday, and they also have gone to the website, SaveTheStockPond.com, and are contributing. Thank you. We've got to stand up and fight this idiocy called the EPA. Oh, knock the microphone over, why don't you, Zeb? Okay. Coming up next hour, we've got my good buddy from Colorado, Doug Johnson, coming on the air. And then at 9:30, Christine Harbin Hansen is going to be on talking about the punks and the thugs with the EPA. At 10:06 this morning, House Speaker and Representative Scott Bedke is going to be on the phone with us. And then at 10:30, don't miss Vet Mike Greenwell. Very nice man. Taking the time. I know he's been going through some back problems here lately, and we appreciate him being on the air this morning, and we're going to be talking about this Bergdahl situation. Don't go away. Zeb at the Ranch. I'll be back in 6. Good morning, everybody. Zeb at the Ranch, hour number 2, and we're brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Always at your disposal. That's the truth. They're always there to serve you. Get rid of your garbage. Get on the route service. Call them. And believe me, we've been on their route service for a long, long time. Very dependable, nice people. They will get rid of your garbage. Call them at 734-6969. Also, they've now got the Go Minis, the portable storage units. These are really, really great. You better check them out for storage and for emergencies when disaster strikes. I mean, they are really something. Check them out today at Western Waste Services, 734-6969, always at your disposal. Hey, by the way, do not forget that every Thursday we have a program on Zeb at the Ranch called Gardening for Idiots. It's named after me, yes sirree Bob, and it's presented by Vicky's Country Gardens at 185 South, 600 West of Paul, and it's on at about 9:12 on Thursday morning, tomorrow morning, and you can get your questions all answered about your gardening needs, all your gardening needs, one stop up at Vicky's Country Gardens on the Burley Paul Highway, 438-5663. And two, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about nice people, and we talk about people that are really oriented towards service and taking care of you and your family, we talk about our friends at Hanson Mortuary. Joel Heward, his staff, his family, always there to help you. And like I said yesterday, you know, they give you family attention. If all of a sudden you call 436-5636 and say, you know, we can't make it into your office today, is there any way you could come here and see us? Absolutely. They will be there to help you with the arrangements. You do not have to go to them. They always uphold the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, 436-5636. We are now, thanks to the miracle of phones, going to go to Colorado and visit with a very, very dear friend of mine right now that's here with us on Wednesdays. Good morning, Doug Johnson. How are you?
Well, I'm good, Zeb. How are you this morning?
Well, not too bad. And may I say that we wish you Godspeed and all goes well for your upcoming surgery. I just want to say that up front because you're a very dear friend and we wish you the very best.
Well, thank you, Zeb. I appreciate that, and you've definitely shown your friendship. I certainly appreciate that. I couldn't ask for more.
Well, Doug, I want to get to the news a little bit this morning, and as you are probably aware, and I want to hear your take on this before I interrupt and give you my opinion, we've got a mess going on in this country, and unfortunately its stemming point is about 75 miles north of me in a little town called Haley, Idaho, and it's regarding Army Bowe Bergdahl, and his being released from the Taliban after 5 years. But now as we look at this, he may have deserted his post and put the rest of his patriotic soldiers that were in his platoon in serious danger. Some, of course, looking for him died. What do you think about this whole mess and possible cover-up by the State Department?
Well, certainly it's an important story. I don't think it's the most important story in the news, but I think it's important. I think the real issue is what the Republicans will do with it. I heard Alan West speak 2 days ago, and he made, I think, the definitive statement about it. He said, this is one more of the many grounds we have for impeachment against this president, and the Republicans have till the end of this week to get impeachment proceedings moving or have a vote on impeachment. If they don't, it's too late. And they probably won't. And I agree with the fact they won't, but I do think that it's another impeachable offense, and I think it's a move that actually backfired on the White House. I think they actually thought that the public would see this as, actually the inside sources say that they would see it as the same as the hostages returning from Iran when Reagan became president. And they were shocked at how it backfired on themselves because they were trying to get the attention off the VA scandal, and they thought doing this would be positive for them, and now they're fighting an uphill battle on it.
One other thing that needs to be thrown in here, Doug, and I've been following this story very closely because of the proximity of the story to us here in southern Idaho. When I listen to many of the soldiers talk about this case and talk about how Bergdahl walking off the base and deserting put them more in harm's way, and this morning Specialist John Fuller made the statement that Bergdahl absolutely was a deserter, and then he also noted that right after Bergdahl left and supposedly, and I'm using these words, and allegedly was collaborating with the Taliban, the attacks on the base were much more precise as to where the motor pool was, where the equipment was stored, where the ammunition was stored. This story is a big story because the White House hailed Bergdahl as a hero. Susan Rice came right out and said, well, we have to honor him because he's one of our heroes, and whatever we can do to get a hero home, we will do. By turning loose 5 Muslim killers? I don't think so.
Well, you've just given about 5 different topics for me to discuss there in that one paragraph, Seb, but briefly, there's no doubt he's a deserter. There actually was a note he left saying he was leaving to start a new life. And we know that at least 14 soldiers were lost searching for him. We also have reports from some of the people who have quietly said, because they were I guess they're not allowed to speak about this. The military aren't, but some who were involved have said they even had orders to shoot him on sight. He was seen not as a POW. In fact, he was never listed as a POW.
That's right.
So yeah, it's important from that standpoint, and I don't doubt that at all. But like I say, I think there are much bigger issues our country faces. So I think this is important, and this could be an issue that would bring things to a head with any other president. I think nothing will happen here because they won't touch this president. And so I think we're going to have a little flurry of activity here for a while, but then that's about it. And the only reason the Democrats who are running away from it now are running away from it is because they have an upcoming midterm elections, and they're nervous about how this will impact them. But I think the crowning statement was made by Saxby Chambliss, Republican of Georgia, who should be thrown out of office, made the statement yesterday to the media that, well, the White House has apologized for it, and there's nothing you can really do now to take it back. But they told us next time they'll tell us in advance.
Yeah.
If that's the attitude of a Republican, we have huge, huge problems in Congress that go far beyond the Democrat Party. And this is what has me concerned, is the Republican reaction to this, more than the fact that the White House is doing nothing about it.
No, I totally agree with you, Doug, and sometimes we have small areas of disagreement on various topics. But your words, a flurry of activity. This is just another snow flurry of activity, along with the Benghazi story, along with the IRS story, along with all the other scandals, along with the VA scandal. I have never in my life ever seen as much scandal and as many things to worry about as we do now with the Obama administration, and yet the American people, they just seem to want to bury their head in the sand and let it go.
Well, absolutely. I linked in my blog post this week, which is not about this topic. It's about something that, frankly, I think is more important. But in that blog post at thehorsesenseblog.com, I linked to two different links to give a total of, this being one of them, 77 times this president has broken the law. 77 times. Any other president would not just be out of office, they'd be in jail at this point. And yet nothing is being done. And this is so outrageous. And let me say this, I'm not trying to downplay the importance of the Bergdahl story. I think it is important, but I will also say that the Joint Chiefs of Staff chairman did make the statement that he's going to be investigated, and he may face desertion charges. So it appears the military is not dropping this, at least, which is, in my mind, good news. But whether it will go much further, who knows? And I wouldn't be surprised if even we saw a presidential pardon for this man if they did find charges against him. But I think the real tragedy in this is the lack of action being taken by our government. That's what I mean, our Congress.
I absolutely agree with you, and you said a minute ago that there are other stories that you deem more important. Well, I agree with you, but all of these things are like little pieces of pizza. They all fit together to get the box filled, and another story that comes up this week that I'm absolutely scared about what they're going to do and what kind of thuggery they're going to provide to us, the American public, is the EPA. We are seeing this act as a mafia. The EPA is taking over powers, taking over this land, taking over our energy, and they're absolutely acting like they're a Gestapo.
Yeah, they are, and nobody's reining them in. And once again, here we have Congress dropping the ball. The EPA really doesn't have the authority that they claim they have, and this president backs up. And I may have my number. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I saw something just briefly in passing this week that these new rules they're putting out will cost the average American family, I think the number I saw was $300 a month in increased energy costs.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't surprise me based on, we know before Obama was elected, he said he wanted to put coal plants out of business. He wanted to raise our energy costs very high, and it appears that this is certainly a major step in that direction.
I don't know how reliable your power is back there in Colorado. I know ours with Idaho Power. Idaho Power has done a great job over the many, many years, but now they're being coerced and their arms are twisted to accept this absolutely frivolously stupid green energy with wind and solar. And Doug, right now, I'll tell you what, our electrical grids in the United States can't absorb any more problems. And if we cut back and cut off coal coal, which is 40% of the grid. Where's the power going to come from on a reliable basis? And the idiocy of people like Bill O'Reilly touting that we should all have electric cars. Doug, do you realize if everybody that was of car driving age had an electric car, nobody would have enough power to even turn the doggone windshield wipers on?
Well, I agree with you, and of course, you know my opinion of Bill O'Reilly is very low.
Yes.
But I don't put much stock in a guy who is what he is. But I will say this, that we have to remember the plan from the left is to take away power. It's to make us all dependent upon the government. It's to get us moving out of the areas where you live and where I live. They want us living in high-rises, in packed cities, much like they do in Hong Kong and places like that. And they don't want us living outside of cities. They want to control this. You will live, work, and shop in the same building is the ultimate plan, with very little time spent outside of that building in your life. That is the ultimate plan of the left, and we have a hard time imagining that, but they basically want to turn the country, or actually the world, because this is part of the UN's operation too, they want to turn the land basically back to nature, which is insanity, but that's what they want to do. And so in their mind, it's okay if we don't have power or energy, that's fine, because they think we are a predator upon this planet, that man is like a disease to this planet. They don't see man as a good thing, they see man as a bad thing. And of course, my suggestion to that, Zeb, I will say one last point, is that I've always suggested those who feel that way are welcome to end their own lives. I wouldn't care. But anyway, I think that we have to understand these people are absolutely mentally insane.
Absolutely.
This is absolute insanity, the way they think, and this is why we need to fight harder than ever.
We are looking at the primaries last night, and there seems to be a shift in a lot of the power going into the November elections. What are your take on some of the people that have won, some of the people that lost, and some of the change in the political landscape? What did you think this morning when you followed the news?
I have not seen the results this morning yet. I've not had a chance. I unfortunately getting ready, because right after I got off the show with you, I've got an appointment I have to leave for. But I know up to this point, we have not seen a big move towards conservatism. And the establishment, Republicans, have had great success in maintaining their candidacies. Now, that said, I need to say something else. There are a number of incumbents that are being challenged by Tea Party candidates that are not necessarily bad candidates in themselves, but just because they're already in office, some people think they should be removed. In fact, I think I read a story a week or so ago that there was concern about your own governor, who I know is a personal friend of yours, and you said very good things about him to me. I don't know anything about him, but there was this big article I read about how Idaho didn't stand a chance because the Tea Party didn't succeed in overthrowing the candidacy for re-election of their governor. And I thought to myself, well, my good friend Zeb tells me he's a good man, and I trust Zeb. So it says to me that people are not looking closely at the candidate, they're just looking at a label. And so now, instead of looking at Republican or Democrat, they're looking at Tea Party or conservative, and that's not the answer either. We need to look at each person and say, are you good or bad? Have you done a good job? Do we want to keep you, or do we need to replace you?
Yeah, but Doug...
And that's what concerns me, is I don't think there's a scrutiny going into this by the voters that really needs to be.
You know, you said that very succinctly and very poignantly, but I want to also jump in and say that I think to just en masse, and I think you're going to agree with me on this, to just en masse buy into a movement with all of their candidates, that is as politically absorbing as being just a devout Democrat or a devout Republican. There were some good Tea Party candidates, there's no question in my mind, but to say that all of them should have jumped in and taken over the election, that's a misnomer. Don't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, because there's nothing wrong with change if change is good. But sometimes what we have is very good, and we should keep it and support it or encourage it. And so it's a balancing act. But you see, Americans have become so lazy that we don't scrutinize anything. Nobody really looks at these elections seriously till after Labor Day, when it's really getting awful late in the time to decide who you're going to support. When 6 months, a year before that, people should have been out knocking on doors supporting who they're for. But we don't see that. People are too busy about playing their video games and watching TV or doing whatever their personal entertainment preferences are, instead of worrying about the future of our country for our children and grandchildren. And That's why I've said to you, in recent discussions that I fear for the future of America, and I really think we're on a downhill slide that may now be to a point where it cannot be stopped.
Let me give you a little short scenario as to one of the reasons, and I'm not going to get into the names or the positions that they were running for here in our state of Idaho. I'll just give you a kind of a carte blanche story without names. One of the candidates, I will let it go at that was running for political office here in the state of Idaho was on my program. All of them were. And we went on in the conversation, and finally I asked this person, I said, why did you vote against a certain bill? I said, this really was an important bill for agriculture here in the state of Idaho. Well, without beleaguering the story too much further, I'll just say that the candidate said, I didn't read the bill, and I made a mistake when I voted against it. Right there, that told me that's the problem in politics today. We've got too doggone many people in office that don't read the bills.
Absolutely. It goes back to the Nancy Pelosi mindset with Obamacare. We've got to pass the bill to find out what's in the bill. This is absolute irresponsibility, and this says to me a couple of things. Number one, it says a lot about the kind of people we have running. It also says something about what we're allowing to happen with these bills. We hear of these 1,000, 2,000-page bills going through that nobody has time to read. Well, maybe they need to back up and slow down. Maybe we need to change the way we do this. We say there's only one issue per bill. I don't know the answer to this. I'm not in politics, but clearly it's gotten out of control, and the people who represent us, most of them really know nothing about our history and our founding, what our founding meant to this world and to our lives, and they don't care enough to pay attention to what they're doing. They're more worried about raising money for re-election and being part of the Insiders Club in Washington than they are about doing what's right for their constituents. And there's a few exceptions to that, but most of them are that way. And this is why I basically have the attitude of throw all of them out, because there aren't too many good ones.
Doug, last question this morning. Would it be sensible? Would it make this country stronger and better on a national level only, with our national senators and congressmen, to go with a term limits program?
Absolutely. Because even if you lose a few good ones, it does two things. One is, in fact, let me expand your proposals. Have a term limits program and take away all benefits from people in Congress. Mm-hmm. They don't get pensions, ever. They don't get anything like that. They serve for a limited number of years, they go home, they go back to their community and do what they do. If we take away the incentive to build a dynasty in Washington, then we don't have people in there building up something that works against the people. You go there only because you're there to serve. You go for a short time, you do your job, and you leave. It also means we as citizens need to be raising up our children as good leaders and encourage them to go and serve their government for 6 years or 8 years or whatever the time frame our limit is on offices, and say, you spend this part of your life doing this, then you go back and you serve your community through your work and whatever. And I think that's very important, because obviously giving them what they have now has done nothing but breed corruption.
Absolutely. Doug Johnson, my dear friend back in Colorado, we wish you and pray for you the very best, and keep us informed. Now, Doug, will you or will you not be available next week on the program? I want to make sure that we get you all the information possible, and if you can be here, we'd love to have you, but I just thought I'd better ask.
I do need to skip next week, because Wednesday is one of the days I'll be at the doctor doing surgery. So
all right, well,
I will skip next week, but I will be back the week after.
Our thoughts and prayers go to you and your family. God's blessings, and I'll be in touch on a personal basis after the program, so you take care and have a great day. Doug, thank you so much.
Thanks, Zeb. You have a great week.
All right. The author of the Horse Sense blog, Doug Johnson, and many, many other books. And we appreciate him taking the time to be on our show. Going in for some very, very serious surgery, and we wish him and pray for him the very best. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget Lennox Home Comfort Systems, gas furnaces, air conditioners, heat pumps, etc. Your family will always enjoy the comfort thanks to our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. The number to call, 678-0459. Father's Day is around the corner. Yes, it is. Oh, some businesses have got some great ideas for you, like the Goodie Shop at 133 West Main in Burley. They say treat your dad to a goodie basket. That's right, build your own or select one that's already done. And special Father's Day mugs filled with candy kisses and brownie treats and everything. It's delicious. The Goodie Shop for Father's Day, 133 West Main in Burley, 647-0106. Also, Redder Showcase. Hello, Redder Showcase, 2611 Overland in Burley. Great place to shop for Dad. Why? Because they've got recliners starting at just $3.99, over 30 different styles to choose from. Dad wants to relax. He can now. Lifetime warranty, best in the industry. I'll tell you what, you get in there today and shop for Father's Day at Redder Showcase, 2611 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see them today. Oh my, in just a few moments, we're going to have a lovely lady on the phone, and that's going to be Christine Harbin Hansen, and she's with Americans for Prosperity, and she's the National Issues Manager, and we're going to be talking to her in just a second. Once again, there is going to be a huge, that means really humongous, car show at the Cassia County Fairgrounds this weekend, Classics on the Grass, and it's going to be June 7th and 8th. And the gates open at Saturday morning 10 to 5, Sunday from 10 to 5, and this is something. Cars, boats, motorcycles, tractors, bicycles, pedal cars. Everything's going to be there, and it's going to be great. Just stop over there. Classics on the Grass this weekend. And don't forget tonight, big team roping at the Jerome County Fairgrounds, starting at 6:30 sign-up, rope at 7, Dave Zanino. Also, our friends at Let's Ride. I want to mention them. Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. That's right, 270 Highway 24 to be exact. And they've got all their power equipment on sale, and now is the time to buy a new generator. Need a generator? I'll tell you what, they've got several varieties to choose from, and they've also got all the Can-Am side-by-sides, all the ATVs. They've got rebates and great financing available. What are you waiting for? This is where the fun is sold, and also a world's greatest service department working on these bikes and keeping them running fit as a fiddle. Let's Ride. Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley, open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6. Good morning to Christine Harbin Hansen with the Americans for Prosperity. Hello, Christine. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it's my pleasure. You always do such a wonderful job on our program, and we're certainly looking forward to your comments. Christine, I want to start this off, and I'm going to sound really harsh because I don't like these people. And when I don't like something, I'm very open and blunt about it. I find the EPA to be nothing more than a group of thugs and punks that are trying to absolutely destroy our society. And I have a friend over in Fort Bridger, Wyoming, you've probably heard about. He built a nice farm pond for his family to enjoy, stocked it with fish, made it available for the wildlife and all of his stock. It's a very, very clean, pure, pristine farm pond. He went through all the hoops in Wyoming to get the necessary permits, but the EPA decided, nope, can't have it, and they're going to fine him $75,000 a day. I absolutely want to see the total demise of the EPA. Now it's your turn. Go ahead.
$75,000? That's a huge fine.
A day. A day.
Day?
A day.
Oh, well, it's alarming, and unfortunately, it's not an isolated example. What we've seen as you know, Zeb, is what we've seen over President Obama's tenure over the past 5 years is the EPA really grab a lot of power. We've seen a real power grab come from the EPA, and the latest example is these new rules that the president announced on Monday. These are going to They aim to cut as much as 30% from the greenhouse gas emissions from the nation's power plants over the next 15 years. And this is going to have a huge impact on people. It's going to hit them and on their energy bills, and it also is going to have a huge impact on energy producers.
All right, Christina, let's just break this apart real slow like a chocolate chip cookie. Let's take it one little bite at a time. Number one, where is the energy going to come from? 40% of the electrical grid is created from coal. Where's the energy going to come from? We know that wind and solar are totally unreliable, totally expensive right now. Where's the energy going to come from?
Well, if the president and his allies in Congress had their way, much of this, our energy would come from a portfolio of what they call renewable energies. We'd see these green energies become an increasing part of our energy source. But what we've seen, over the course of, the past several years is that these are simply economically unviable. And the only reason that that consumers are able to use them is because they rely on tax incentives at the state and federal level, and also energy mandates like renewable portfolio standards. And this is a really raw deal for American energy consumers because it means that they're paying more, not only on their energy bills, but on their tax bills.
Okay, the American economy, at best, is on the edge of the cliff. Many people think it's already fell off the cliff. Senior citizens on fixed incomes, people that are on low-budget jobs, their incomes, they just can't support maybe looking at $200, $300, $400, $500 a month just to keep their kids warm in the wintertime and not freeze to death. Christine, this is insanity. This President Obama, if you want to call him that, and this absolutely runaway power-lusting group called the EPA, this is crazy. We have more energy under our feet that could ever be used in eternity, and we're wasting it.
That's a great point. So there's a new report that came out recently from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce that was based on a similar set of rules, and what it showed was that consumer spending on energy will actually increase $17 billion every year from 2014 to 2030 if these rules go into effect. So this means that people will have less money, and now is the worst time because we've some other news coming out of Washington. We saw that the economy literally shrunk by 1% over this past quarter. So what Americans really need right now is access to affordable energy, but instead what their elected officials are doing are proposing to make it even harder. They're proposing to really double down on these green energy mandates and restrictive rules.
The thing I want to ask you about this morning is, Christine, and I'm sure you're aware of this being the National Issues Manager, when you look at solar, and it's not environmentally friendly because birds, airplanes, transmissions, as far as voice transmissions and everything are burning up because of some of these solar plants. Okay, it's not feasible and it's not cost effective. Number two, the wind towers. These absolute cancers on the landscape with their great big propeller blades. You would think the environmentalists would say, wait a minute, you're killing the birds of prey, you're killing the eagles, you're killing the wildlife, and it's really not cost effective. Where's the environmental movement standing up for the environment?
That's a very good point, Zeb, and it's something that we've seen particularly in our work on the wind production tax credit. We see a huge problem in California in particular, which has a lot of wind farms. We've seen that this has really had a huge impact on bird and bat populations. And not just birds, not just any kinds of birds, we're talking about eagles. And it's very concerning because we see these eagles being slaughtered, all these birds that are these birds and bats that are running into these wind turbines, and it's very alarming. However, unfortunately, until recently, there hasn't been any action, from the federal government or any other kind of recourse on slaughtering all these eagles. It's actually illegal. I believe it's under the Migratory Bird Defense Act to murder an eagle, our national symbol. But only until recently. I know in California, Duke Energy recently received $1 million fine sometime over this past year for all these bird deaths. But that's really a wrist slap when you're considering, how much money that Duke and how big of a utility they are. And this is it's a problem that's been going on for a long time.
I agree. We have a caller with a question. Go ahead, caller, quickly, please. You're on the air.
There's one thing that's happening that I see is the construction of these northwest power lines that are going in are being crippled or stalemated by the EPA from environmental rulings, and it's just stopping progress in hand. And the same thing I'm afraid of is going to happen with the Keystone pipeline, which is just going to add more expense to our power rates by the EPA for that expansion. So can you comment on that?
All right. Thank you, caller. Christine, please go ahead.
Yeah, we see a combination of really alarming policies coming out from the EPA, and I think the caller named two very good ones. One is, as we're describing right now, are these new, really restrictive rules on emissions that the EPA is doing, and another one is the fact that the president is using the EPA to withhold the permit for the Keystone pipeline for political reasons. This fits in the broad narrative of the president restricting Americans' access to affordable energy and raising their tax bills and energy bills. And this is something that Americans for Prosperity is very focused on.
Let me ask you this, Christine, and I'm not trying to sound overly simplified, but why aren't we the people doing something about it? Why aren't we just pushing these people, these senators, these congressmen, right to the brink so their heels are over the edge and telling them as we grab onto the short end of the tie, we want this changed. We want energy programs in this country that are going to benefit and make progress for all of us. We want cost-effective energy. Why aren't we doing anything?
Well, Zeb, I have a disappointing answer for you. And it's really the problem. The answer is there's a problem here in Washington. Because really the people who should be making decisions on these rules that are affecting, our energy is Congress. Our members of Congress should be making them. But as we've seen over the past several years, is that Congress has been outsourcing ever-increasing amounts of its authority to executive agencies. And so that's why we see more rules like this coming out from unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats that have been appointed by President Obama and not from the senators and representatives that people sent to Washington.
Yeah,
so this is very alarming, and it makes it really difficult for people to be held accountable. It makes it very difficult for grassroots folks to let the, people in Washington know that they oppose these rules. That said, that doesn't mean that it's impossible. There will be some avenues, like an open commenting period, and that's something that that'll allow people in the states to weigh in, and that's something that Americans for Prosperity will help. So it's difficult, but it's not impossible.
Christine, though, and again, I don't mean to sound crass when I say this, but it's true. Hold on, caller, I'll be right there. The EPA does not have any power whatsoever. Congress didn't allocate any power to them. They are absolutely lower than dog do, but yet we have assumed and let them take this power over us, the American people. We really should be outraged and close their operation down.
Well, it's certainly very concerning about the overreach that we've seen, and it's the EPA for sure. They're out there. They're making all these onerous new rules, but we also see this in other executive agencies as well. We see this in the Health and Human Services and the Center for Medicaid Services. Those are the folks who are implementing the president's health care law, and that's having a huge impact as well. So the EPA is certainly a problem in terms of its overreach, but this just fits into the broad narrative that we've seen from President Obama's administration.
Absolutely. We have another caller with a question. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I'm repeating myself here, so forgive me, but maybe you aren't familiar with this or not, I don't know, but I know the act of tilling the soil, the act of breaking open the soil to till so you can actually farm is creating greenhouse gas according to the EPA. They want to control a pond on your property if it rains. A dry ditch that might be wet here and there. The act of composting, the very thing that they encouraged us to do, they are saying is actually creating greenhouse gas. Anytime you break down any kind of vegetation, like composting, you're creating greenhouse gas. The insanity, these people don't know, like my dad used to say, whether or not they're going or coming. It's insanity, and the attitude, the climate of this administration is so off the charts, and I see no pushback from the Republican leadership, none. I'm just sick of their gutlessness, and I'll hang up. Thanks.
You know, he brings up an excellent point. I'm very disillusioned with both sides of the aisle, Christine, because I don't see anybody, Democrat or Republican, working and or fighting for me.
Well, I think the past caller brought up two very good additional examples of the EPA's overreach. Farm dust is something that's a huge problem, a huge concern when it comes to regulating farm dust. We see the EPA say that somehow under their calculations, under their assumptions, that this farm dust is also negatively impacting the environment. But as the caller says, like tilling is an integral part of of agriculture, and it'll have this huge economic impact if we regulate farm dust to be too restrictive. The other one that he commented about was the issue of what is a navigable water. And that's something, a term that was brought up under the Clean Water Act, and now the EPA is using that to be able to seize properties and start regulating areas that probably, in on any real world sense of the word, aren't navigable waters. So there is no shortage of examples here of the EPA's power grab, and it's something that we're very focused on here at Americans for Prosperity.
Let me ask you this, though, Christine. Back on the East Coast, it seems like, and tell me if this perception is wrong, that the people that live in Maryland or the people that live in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, or whatever back on the East Coast, they really don't understand how dangerous and how sinister I think the EPA is. Would you agree that they're basically shielded from what the EPA is doing to those of us from the Midwest and westward?
Well, I think there are certainly some differences that happen like across regions. I think states in the West, I know states like Idaho certainly have a different set of problems relating to the EPA, particularly as it relates to federal lands. There are some concerns here. I know some states that are focused on the issue. North Carolina, here on the East Coast, is also very, having a problem with, or has a lot of problems with navigable waters and how that relates to an EPA power grab, like the previous caller just mentioned. But I think a lot of this really comes down to an urban-rural divide. We don't see a lot of attention or a lot of concern coming out of states like, New York or Maryland or here in D.C. because, it's very urban here. We don't have a lot of farm dust.
Let me ask you, if you were sitting here in my chair at my place in southern Idaho, and we know how sinister and how evil the EPA is, and I yesterday had Andy Johnson from Fort Bridger, Wyoming on my program, and Andy emphatically said, no, I am not going to pay the EPA $75,000 a day in fines. No, I am not going to take my farm pond apart. I applied to the state of Wyoming for the permits. I did everything right, and it wasn't until way after the fact that it was built, the EPA came in and said, cease and desist and tear it apart. No, I'm not going to abide by it. Is it going to take the American public basically revolting and telling the EPA no to stop this?
I think it's going to take a lot of no's, but I think there's enough opposition to these onerous rules at the grassroots level that certainly it's going to be difficult. It's going to make it difficult for the EPA to implement them. Looking forward over the next year, I think what we're going to see is a big legal battle over these rules. There are a lot of folks who have weighed in on this, in addition to Americans for Prosperity, who have really highlighted some serious opposition and highlighted the huge impact that they'll have on families and on businesses. So this is something, it's an issue that's not going away anytime soon, but it's something that a lot of people are putting a lot of work into.
Christine, is there a way, last question, is there a way that coal-producing states, i.e. West Virginia with Congressman Joe Manchin, is there a way they can fight back? Is there a way that they can have their voices heard? Is there a way that we can keep that energy on the grid, or is it a dead horse?
No, I think there's a lot of focus on this right now. Everybody on and off Capitol Hill right now is talking about this issue. One way for people, like folks on the ground, to weigh in on this issue, like today, is go to our website at Americans for Prosperity to send a note to their member of Congress that they urging them to oppose this rule. You can do that at action.americansforprosperity.org. And also stay tuned for over the summer for different opportunities to weigh in. Talk to your neighbors. Tell them about all these new rules that people are that the EPA is promoting. Also, get connected with your local AFP state chapter. We can make it really easy for you to contact your members of Congress and also submit comments to the EPA. So it's something that we're going to stay focused on. It's something that a lot of other organizations here in D.C. and in the states are going to focus on as well. It's really important to let people know that you oppose these rules.
All right. I really thank you. Great conversation this morning. Christine Harbin-Hansen, Americans for Prosperity National Issues Manager. Christine, I always enjoy having you on the program. Come back soon. Thank you and have a great day.
You too, Zeb. Always a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Very interesting lady right there, Christine Harbin-Hansen, talking about the villainous EPA. That conversation yesterday with Andy Johnson over in Fort Bridger, Wyoming, I was so mad when I got done with that conversation. I mean, I was ready to throw the dog through the window and then go chase the cat. It was just one of those conversations to where, God bless Andy. God bless Andy for saying to the EPA, no, get out of my home, get off my property, and don't come back. And no, I will not pay your $75,000 or $150,000 a day fines. No, I'm not going to do it. I jumped through the hoops. I built a farm pond for the enjoyment of my kids, my wife, and myself. After I went down and got the permits and jumped through all the hoops for the state of Wyoming, don't you come in here after the fact and tell me that I am going to be fined this amount of money. Right now, as he said yesterday on the program, he's over $5 million in fines from the thugs and the punks and the worthless people at the EPA. I have nothing good to say. I mentioned this on the air last week, and I was serious, that each and every one of us ought to go dig a little pond in our backyard. Just go dig a little pond in our backyard. And I'll bet you that within a couple of days' time, somebody's going to be contacted about, you can't do this. You can't store that water up in that pond. No, you can't do that. The EPA. That's the kind of villainous attitude they have. They want control over everything. Everything. And I am supporting Andy Johnson. I'm supporting his standing up and saying, no, not going to pay you, not going to take the pond apart, and you'd better get off of my property now because you risk physical retribution. I talked to his wife later on in the day yesterday and thanked her for making sure that we got Andy on the program and everything. And they were very, very thankful about all the acknowledgments on this show. And they were thankful that some of you have also helped to contribute to their legal fund to fight, beat, and I hope absolutely trounce the EPA. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. It's time for a weather update, and the weather this hour is brought to you by Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. The very best of guns, ammo, and accessories, and the best of people, too. They got the most knowledgeable people working right there with the whole crew, Ryan and the rest of the folks at Red's Trading Post in Twin. Here's the weather.
Hello, I'm Michael Rogers for MichaelRogersWeather.com. I'm not going to waste your time nor take you for granted. You got a nice day all the way through next week. A lot of sun, very little clouds. Temperatures are in the 80s. This is like, wow. Yeah, it's going to be nice all the way through the weekend, so enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Brought to you by Red's Trading Post. As I said, Ryan and the rest of the crew, boy, I mean, if you're looking to trade in firearms, they give you the best on trade-ins, and they've got the best of new and, of course, all the accessories and the ammunition. At Red's Trading Post in Twin Falls. Take some calls, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget Cameron and Siemens Insurance, life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, and, of course, employee benefits. They can sit down and analyze your program and make sure that you're protected. And if you haven't started a program, you'd better talk to them today. Call them at 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. I'm just sick of being pushed around. I am sick and tired of, no, we can't afford to do this because energy prices are so high. We can't afford to do this because we can't take the money away from that budget because now we're looking at this going sky high. You can't do this, you can't do that. This is America. This is America, and I would bet you that our forefathers are turning over in their graves going, why did you let this happen? We have got to stand up and fight back. These very, very sickening people that want to have nothing more than a 7-letter word, control. We've got to fight back. Oh, and gee, I hope the NSA heard that and has it on tape this morning. All right, calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Gina, you get as worked up about some of this stuff as I do, to the point where I am sick and tired of having Big Brother over my shoulder 24/7.
Welcome to George Orwell's 1984.
Oh, we've already surpassed that.
Oh, I know it. I am not a big fan of having Big Brother look over our shoulders constantly, but this is kind of what we should have expected with the invention of computers and the internet. Seriously.
But when you take like the story yesterday about Andy Johnson, I've got a picture right here. I don't know if you managed to follow it on the web or not. He's got 3 young daughters and his lovely wife and himself, and they just took their life savings and built a very, very nice looking home with a farm pond and some farm animals, went through all the hoops in the state of Wyoming, and now they're being possibly charged from $75,000 to $150,000 a day by the EPA. That's so criminal, I can't even stand to talk about it.
Me neither. And I don't know where all of this came from, except for to say it's probably been brewing for a long time with the NSA, the EPA, Big Brother breathing down our necks. This has been in the works, I think, for a long time and prior to the current president.
I agree.
That's my opinion, though.
I agree.
I've got 2 phone calls.
All right, quick call. I've only got time for about 2 minutes worth of calls. Good morning. Quickly, go ahead.
Hi, Dad. This just reminds me of something that I studied about when we were in college. And so this has been coming on for a long time. And you and I are the group of kids that were in college when they were designing this. And you know what? We were so naive that we thought this was just a joke.
I agree.
And yet this is called creep.
I agree.
And I think that the problem is there's 2 generations between us when we learned this and the kids that are coming up. And can we talk to our kids about it? Some of them just think we're talking crazy because they're so used to all of this that they're just used to it.
I agree. Chris,
I don't see that this is hindering their lifestyle.
I agree. Listen, I've got another call, but I want you to call back when I have more time to talk to you about this. Appreciate your call. I'm going to quickly take the next call. Very short. I've only got 30 seconds left, and then I have to do a commercial. Caller, go ahead. Fast.
I just want to make a quick comment. She talked about the birds and the other things about these wind turbines, but also that's already been proven, and they know that there's ground warming and drying for miles around these things.
Yes.
And they cannot eliminate the fact that these machines are going to remove energy from the wind, and this will have an impact on our weather and ultimately the climate.
There you go. Thank you. You're very well read on this subject. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you. Got to run, but I want to tell you real quick about our friends at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Yes, sirree, all the sofas. Oh, my goodness, look at all those sofas. Look at all those sofas. Look at all those chairs. Look at all those dining table sets. Look at all the bedroom sets. Look at all the mattresses. My goodness, all the accessories. Why, they've got everything. And all the rolls and rolls and rolls of carpet. My goodness sakes, it's your store. And really nice people. Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley. You stop in and see them today. Whatever you're looking for to improve the comfort and absolute lovability of your home, it's all there at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Going to take a break and come back with Speaker of the House Scott Bedke, and then at 10:30, veteran Mike Greenwell. Don't you go away. Oh my, here we go, hour number 3. Beautiful day outside. Is the wind still blowing? Yeah, the doggone wind. Ooh, I don't like wind, but nice day. Good morning, everybody. I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services. Always at your disposal. Start on the route service. Get your garbage picked up. It's gone. Call them at 734-6969. You know what? Boy, about this time of the morning after you've had breakfast at 4:15 in the morning, I get a little bit hungry, I'll guarantee you that. And today, what's on the menu at the Chadwick Sports Grill? 139 West Main in Burley. Listen to this. Pasta Primavera with garlic toast and super salad. Ooh, that sounds so good. They've got a lot of great menu choices right there at the Chadwick Sports Grill. Nice people, great menu. What an interesting environment right there with all the sports memorabilia. You're going to love it at Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Really, really good place to go eat. Right now, we're going to go to the phone lines and visit with the Speaker of the House, Representative Scott Bedke from Oakley, Idaho. He's in the House, and he's taking a little respite from moving cows from here to there and everywhere. Good morning, Scott. How are you?
I'm very well, Zeb. How are you getting along?
Well, let me ask you a couple of questions first and foremost, Scott. And a rancher, a man that makes his living from the nature, the soil, and animals and animal husbandry, I am absolutely livid. Yesterday, you were out moving cattle. You probably didn't hear the story, but over in Fort Bridger, Wyoming, a man by the name of Andy Johnson and his family on a little 9-acre place in Fort Bridger, Wyoming, they built a little farm pond. They went to the Wyoming state authorities, got all the permits and did everything. It's a really nice, very pure water farm pond, stocked it with fish so that they're ready to fish anytime they want to have their neighbors over. They can water their livestock and the wildlife can come in. They jumped through all the hoops and did what they thought was correct. The EPA came in, Scott, and is shutting them down to the tune of a minimum of $75,000 per day fines, and they're already over $5 million in fines. They said they're not going to pay it. They're going to fight the EPA. And this is what people out here in the hinterland are fighting, the thugs and the punks of the EPA, and I just wanted you to comment on that.
Well, you get these faceless bureaucrats who are pushing an environmental agenda, and it's just completely frustrating. It's infuriating. It's just one more good reason why we need to have direct control of our lands here, and anyway, it's ridiculous, I guess, in a word. It's just ridiculous. I don't know the situation. I don't know, the guy or anything like that, but you can, but I'll bet that he made that the world is a net better place for his efforts there, and for the EPA to come in and override the state agencies. And, it sounds to me like the state of Montana needs to step up and protect this guy.
Well, it's Wyoming. It's Wyoming. The state of Wyoming over at Fort Bridger. I had him on my program yesterday, and I personally am going to support him financially in fighting the EPA. And you made a very good point and tied it right into what we were going to talk about this morning. There is a major push, and I'm one of those guys that wants to see this happen, of our state taking back some of the federal lands for much better and better guided management of those lands, more so than the federal government. Now, that brings me up to where we are and what's happening.
Well, what you have is many of the states, and we could name them off here, but in the West, but particularly Idaho, Utah, Nevada, Montana, Wyoming, New Mexico, I believe, has each of those states have passed. Their state legislatures have passed laws where as a state, they're going to look into the state management of the public land, and so each state's doing studies, conducting public meetings, etc., as we are here in Idaho. But what I was and that's all fine and good that each state does this individually, but I thought that we needed to bring these efforts together from the various states and coordinate our efforts and not reinvent the wheel in each state. Share with the other states the things that have worked, share the things that haven't worked, and kind of come up with a coordinated approach so that when the time comes, that we can go as a group of states and not just individual states that Congress can just write off. Little Idaho is here. We don't have to listen to them. But if Idaho, Utah, Nevada, Wyoming, Montana, New Mexico, Arizona, Oregon, Washington, Alaska, if we all come and make our case together, and every state can tell the similar stories. The federal land management is not working. It's not working from an environmental perspective. It's not working for the economy, and I think we have a very compelling story to tell. But it's interesting as we work this issue in the other states. Idaho has we're Republican dominated, and both in the governor's office and the legislature, both House and Senate are there's large majorities for conservative Republicans who are amenable to this type of idea. But if you go to Nevada, if you go to Montana, obviously Oregon, Washington, they have either the Democrats are in the majority or they're split. But it's interesting that even in those states that they are going forward with this, and so that comes back to the things that are that we've got to assure to the public. One of the great things about living in the West is the access to public lands, and we need to assure everyone that is listening that under state management of the public land, it'll still be public land. The Constitution is clear on what we can do and how many acres you can sell, and those are very small, very small acreages. I think in Idaho it's at 320, but I can't remember the last time that has even happened. But anyway, we've got to continually come back to the high ground that we can always defend on this issue is that the money that would be raised would come back into the education system, into the road system, that the states can do every bit as good a job, if not better than, the feds when it comes to managing this land in an environmentally responsible way. And while we do that, then we can build up the rural and the state economic infrastructure. This will create jobs, and there's just nothing, and as the feds, I mean, you evidenced by this issue in Wyoming this morning, that the law of the land is multiple use and sustained yield. but we're slipping more and more to this dominant use. And it's not, and the dominant use is not livestock, it's not timber, it's protectionism and environmentalism, and that's the dominant use of the public land. And so the best way to maintain the multiple use and sustained yield concepts that we've had for the last 50 years on public land is through the state. Here in Idaho, we manage 2.5 million acres. The state does, of forest lands, range lands. We have a great track record. It works. Our land management model that I've just described works, and we're doing a great job on the 2.5 million acres that we have. There's another 37 million acres here in the state of Idaho that is federally managed, and there's no reason that our land management can't expand and expand. It's not like we're going to turn around all of this bad management overnight and the poor forest health and put an end to catastrophic wildfires and forest fires overnight. But over time, we have proven as a state that our management system works, and it works better.
Scott, you can correct me on this if you want to. I'll take it. But I'm looking at one word sums up the whole problem with the feds versus the states. They do not want to relinquish control. That's it. They want control of those lands. They want complete control of us. They want to administer to us with a thumbs down on our forehead type approach. This is what the problem is. They can't manage those lands. They don't have the ability, they don't have the people on the ground, and they don't have the knowledge. We could much better in the state of Idaho or Utah or New Mexico or Colorado manage our lands if they were assumed back to the state. But it's all about control. Would you agree or not?
Oh, I agree 100%. It doesn't matter whether it's, the Guy's Pond in Fort Bridger, Wyoming, or the sage-grouse issue, or, spotted owl. Insert your endangered species here, or, your EPA overreach. It's all about control of the land, and that's, and it's as simple as that. And these are always surrogate issues to that end, and that's what it's about. I think that there's certainly a huge misconception in most parts of the United States, and certainly in Congress, that they think that the U.S. Forest Service is just like the Park Service, and that these are just big national parks out here, and and we're basically squatters, and that couldn't be farther from the truth.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question. Go ahead, caller. Quickly, please.
Yes, in 2012, Scott, 1.7 million acres burnt in Idaho. In Idaho County alone, they figured that they lost 1.2 billion, as with a B, billion board feet of timber on the stump, when we estimated the cost of that at $369 million. $369 million. Now, if you take that and you retail it out, at any way, we take that times 5. That's $1,800,000,000 that we have lost in natural resources because of mismanagement of the forests and this kind of insanity. Over the weekend, I was up at Anderson Ranch Reservoir. I go up there every year, and I've been going up there for all my life. And on the backside over there where Fall Creek is, I don't know if you know where that is or not, they had unbelievable amounts of damage and cabins burnt to the ground. And this kind of insanity, and it's costing us unbelievable amounts of money that could have been going to do one thing, fund education or anything else. I'll hang up. Thanks.
The caller's absolutely right. Mother Nature provides every year a growth increment. The forest is going to accumulate so many board feet, so many more new trees, etc. And that growth increment is going to happen every year. And it will eventually you will either harvest it in a sustained yield type approach, or it will eventually burn. And and we have seen what happens when you lock any type of commercial use out of the forest. and let the trees grow and let the growth increment accumulate. All that fuel accumulates, and every year it's hot and dry and windy in August, and sometimes in July and September, and we have these huge fires, and they are just sterilizing type fires. I mean, they burn so hot and so fast that and we're just leaving money on the table, just like the gentleman described. Like I say, if the state were to take the management, and we would use our successful model and just overlay that over the federal land, we could expect similar results. We're not going to lock anybody out of it. The hunting experiences, the access experience, the ability to plan, all of those things will certainly not be, those are not going to be taken away from the public. But our adversaries on this, our opponents, like to call this a land grab, that it will just be, blocked up and then sold off to the highest bidder, and nothing could be farther from the truth. It's just a continual disinformation that the left always does when their arguments don't hold water.
Scott, who are the knuckle draggers? Who are the people that are against this? Who are the naysayers? Who are the people that are applying to the media for a no on this reversal of the lands going back to the states? Name them. Who are they, so we know who to attack and fight?
These are the usual suspects. All of the environmental groups, to one degree or another, think that this, I like say, you know the list as well as I do, but there are some that are coming around. The evidence is clear. Idaho has an ongoing pilot project, if you will, of over 2 million acres that we've managed very successfully since statehood. And a weather front comes through, our land is exposed to just as many lightning strikes as the federal side of the line, and over time and time again, I mean, it's proven our fires, if they do start on our land, are smaller, they're less intense. Our land management practices are better, and they're just not the fuel loads that there are on the federal forest. And the naysayers will step up and they'll say, well, look, they'll use the exact same information that the caller just used. There's 1.7 million acres of forests in Idaho that burned up, and the cost to fight that fire was, in the tens of millions of dollars, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars is what the federal government spent fighting the fires. And they'll say, now, can Idaho afford that? That'll break the budget in Idaho if you have to pay the firefighting bill. And that may be true initially, but where no one is, and that's the beauty of this approach that the various states or the western states are advocating. This is not something that we will do overnight. This is not something that will happen in one fell swoop. We realize that there's expenses that are catastrophic, that will be budget breakers for these states. But that's no excuse to do nothing and continue. If it's a budget breaker for the states, it's certainly got to be a budget breaker for the federal government, and they just go borrow the money. This is, we need to quit dilly-dallying around on this issue and start.
Uh-huh.
And if the people that are concerned about it, all we've got to do is point to our experience here in Idaho and each of the western states, frankly, that have millions of acres that they manage. The world did not come to an end. There's not a crater where the Idaho trust lands used to be. We're doing a great job, and we can do it on the adjacent federally managed lands as well.
After the meeting in Salt Lake,
the no-brainer, in my opinion.
Absolutely. After the meeting in Salt Lake City that was held roughly about a month ago with the other western states, did you at that meeting develop somewhat of a timetable or a reference point as to where you wanted to be on a certain date and then progress from there? I mean, is this thing really on track?
Yes, I believe it is. We in Idaho here took 2 years for this, so The interim committees will be meeting this summer. They'll report back to the legislature, and each of the states is on a similar time track, with probably Utah being a little out in front of everybody. They had 1 year ahead, or they started 1 year before everyone else did. But again, the optimistic, if you need something to point to, this is getting traction in these states that are. It doesn't matter whether the Republicans are in control of the legislature or the governor's office or the Democrats. Everyone recognizes what we're doing is not working.
Absolutely. Scott, there's 1,000 other things I'd like to ask you about, but I'm almost out of time. And give us a quick answer on this one. Looking ahead to the next legislative session going into this next winter, what's the big issue that's going to take a lot of your time at the legislative session?
Well, the budget will, and how we do, the governor's task force on education is up and going again, and they've got that list of recommendations that the stakeholder groups have come up with, and I think finding a way to get that implemented is going to take up quite a bit of time. I think there's going to be some discussion on Medicaid redesign and whatnot, and I've drawn a pretty deep line in the sand on that issue. I am not in favor of expanding Medicaid at all, and then they say, well, Bedke, what does that mean? And I said, well, you take the amount of money we're spending right now as a state, and the amount of money that the federal government is spending on Medicaid in Idaho, total that up, and we're not going to spend any more. So redesign, do whatever you want to do, but that needs to be the upper limit. And it's true that the state right now is paying for about 30% of the medical bills of the population of all the citizens in Idaho, and we do it in a very inefficient way. And you and I end up having to pay those bills, and we would like those that receive that entitlement to do it in the most efficient way possible. And so there's plenty of room for redesign and restructure and reform, but we shouldn't be paying more money to do it.
Absolutely.
So that'll be another issue that we'll be talking about. Transportation funding may come up as well. But I think those three issues, between the education and some type of a Medicaid reform thing, and how that but that'll put us on a collision course with the Obama administration and the Obamacare. Mm-hmm. We will drag our feet and fight that as best we can, but there'll be these federal mandates that that say you've got to expand here, this population's got to be served, et cetera, et cetera. But like say, from my position as the Speaker of the House, I'm going to put it's a non-starter if it's going to cost us more.
Absolutely. Speaker of the House, Scott Bedke from Oakley, thank you. I mean that, for taking your time out of a very busy summer day. God bless you, and come back soon. Thank you so much.
I will. I'm going to go back out and help Sarah finish planting the tomatoes.
Look out. Make sure the rows are straight. Okay, take care, Scott. See you later.
All right.
Thank you. Speaker of the House, Scott Bedke, and appreciate his comments about us, Idaho, taking back a lot of the federal land into the fold of the state of Idaho. Absolutely in favor of it. Feds are going to fight it. Like I said, they want control. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244. Don't forget, I know a couple of good old boys from Declo that want to help you. They practice law in the area, and they know all about wills and trusts and estates and ag law, water law, farm leases, purchases, adoptions, family law. They really want to assist you, and that's, of course, Brent Anthon and Matt Darrington with Anthon Darrington PLLC. They're located at 601 7th Street in Rupert, and the number to call for your help, and they will help you, is 260-5280. Let me repeat that number again, 260-5280. You give these guys a call, they will serve you. I know a lot of us have questions about setting up a will or a trust, or how to handle our estates and passing it down to the family, or farm leases, whatever. You give them a call today. Anthon Darrington, PLLC, 601 7th Street in Rupert, 260-5280. We're going to take a small break and then come right back with Mike Greenwell. Stay tuned, Zeb at the Ranch.
And now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much, and we're going to have Mike Greenwell on the phone with us in just a moment, but I think so I don't have to interrupt him in midstream. I want to do the weather forecast real quick, if you don't mind, Gina. I think we'll have Michael Rogers' weather update brought to the people this hour by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road in Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657. Your hometown meat cutter, locally owned for over 20 years, and absolutely some great summer barbecue specials. 50 pounds of beef, pork, and chicken, absolutely delicious. And don't forget, too, to call and order marinated tri-tips for any occasion. Selling taste one bite at a time. Scarrows Meats in Jerome. Here now is Michael Rogers' weather.
Hello, I'm Michael Rogers for MichaelRogersWeather.com. I'm not going to waste your time nor take you for granted. You got a nice day all the way through next week. A lot of sun, very little clouds. Temperatures are in the 80s. This is like, wow. Yeah, it's going to be nice all the way through the weekend, so enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Brought to you again by Scarrows Meats, 324-7657. They're located right there at 331 North Road, Jerome, selling taste one bite at a time. Ladies and gentlemen, with me on the phone line right now is a man that I have the utmost respect for as he served us and our country, and that's Mike Greenwell. Good morning, Mike. How are you?
It's fine, having you.
I'm super, and just a real treat and pleasure to have you on the program this morning. Mike, before we get started on the subject that I wanted to talk about, give us a little background of you and what branch of the military you were in, what rank, where you served, that type of thing, so my audience knows exactly who's speaking this morning.
Certainly. I was born and raised in the Kasota area on a small farming ranch. At the age of 17, I decided I wanted to enlist, and it did so. I left just a few weeks after my graduation, went in the United States Army, basic training, infantry training, then airborne school, and then all over the place after that for approximately 21 years. Served in the parachute infantry regiments, 82nd Airborne. I was part of the 101st at one point, 18th Airborne Corps. I also served time as a recruiter and as a first sergeant for a pretty basic training company. I retired as a sergeant first class and moved back to the area because I love it here.
Mike, the subject matter, and I talked to Mike yesterday on the phone, and I told him I wanted to talk about the Bowe situation with Bowe. All of a sudden, the name left me, Bergdahl, pardon me, and wanted to talk to him about that. I have received by some people some harsh criticism saying that we should wait until he's brought to trial, if there ever is a trial. We should basically disregard what his fellow soldiers have said for years about him walking away from his post. I'm just going to ask you, do you think we're wrong as journalists by opening this Pandora's box up and giving direct quotes from soldiers that served with Bowe Bergdahl, calling him a traitor, calling him a deserter? Are we wrong in following up on this story, or do you think it needs to be brought to the attention of the American public?
Absolutely not. But I'll tell you right now, one of the primary problems that we have today, and this has been indicative, it pains me that the Army, and I shouldn't say the Army itself is an entity, not a person, but the powers that be love to shoot themselves in the foot on a continual basis. I'll use Pat Tillman, Aubrey Gray, and Bowe Bergdahl as examples. From the get-go, we had the evidence, we had the facts of what had occurred that evening, with only one exception, and that was Bowe Bergdahl's account of what occurred. Now, and that is important, and it will be brought out in the 15-6 investigation, which they open those as soon as something like that happens, and it's been open this entire time. And until he comments and his statements are part of a matter of record, then that investigation won't be completed. But no, that's part of what journalists do. That is part of why this is a free nation. It's part of the reason why we can go out there, and it's a double-edged sword. The media can report everything that they want to report. I have seen that time and time again, and Bowe Bergdahl's case is one of those cases. The evidence was there from the get-go that there was something wrong, but you didn't hear about it. You had to dig deep, you had to search deep, and it wasn't until the Rolling Stone story in 2012 that people really started asking a lot of hard questions about what occurred that night.
Mike, let me phrase this to you, and agree with me or disagree. I'll really relish your opinion on this. This morning, I heard on the news that the White House and this administration is now trying to whitewash, sanitize, blame others, whatever you want to say, in basically the deal. They're saying that by releasing the 5 Taliban terrorists, that was a good thing to save a Army man, Bowe Bergdahl, that was absolutely fighting and serving his country with honor. That's the story they're staying behind. They're trying to whitewash it. And when a reporter stood up at a press conference back in D.C. and said, wait a minute, this man deserted, the person that was conducting the press conference said, no, that's all hearsay, and they basically discounted what the other fellow soldiers have said and put kind of a kibosh on their opinions. That's kind of a scary situation, isn't it?
Well, I'll tell you right now, these soldiers that have come forward have actually, and this is where I'm still up in the air on trying to decide. These guys are stepping forward and they're violating a non-disclosure agreement they were asked to sign. And I can only assume, and I say this is an assumption, that they were asked to sign that non-disclosure agreement because it was still an open 15-6 investigation. The non-disclosure agreement, but I can't also help but think there were political reasons behind having all these soldiers sign those NDAs. The pure and simple fact is you ask the truth, you make assumptions. And when you make assumptions, 50% of the time you're going to be wrong. So why not get all of the truth out there? Why not put it out there? And I think these soldiers, while they violated their NDA, they did what they thought was correct. His own team leader stepped forward. Now, I don't know if your audience knows what a team leader is in the infantry, but a platoon of soldiers is about 40 men. And out of that 40 men, there's 4 squads. And out of that 4 squads, there's 2 teams per squad, approximately 4 to 5 members to a team. So his team leader, his first-line supervisor, has stood up on national television, CNN, and stated, he's a deserter, he's not a hero, he's a traitor. You cannot just take that and discount it and say, well, people have their opinions. This is the guy that was on the ground, first-hand account, and knows exactly what occurred that evening, except for the last final act of him leaving his post.
All right, Mike, this morning at 8:30 Eastern, 6:30 Idaho time, there was also a gentleman by the name of Specialist John Fuller that was being interviewed, and his comments were very emphatic. He said that Bergdahl did and was a deserter, and then he said something else that was very interesting. He said that right after Bergdahl was gone, and the other members of the platoon were out looking for him for days, and there were supposedly other soldiers that were killed and injured in looking for Bergdahl. He said it was very interesting that there were more precise attacks on their home base by the Taliban, and it was almost like they knew exactly where to hit, where the equipment was stored, where the munitions were stored. And basically he was stating, without really coming out and saying it, that perhaps Bergdahl was collaborating with the enemy. What are your thoughts on that possible alleged collaboration?
Well, I've read a few accounts on that, and whether it was collaboration or if he gave the information under duress. And I'll tell you right now, I've been through military courses that prepare you for situations like that. There is really, when you get down to the nuts and bolts of it, there is no preparation for going into a situation like that. You don't know what they're going to do to you, and there are tactics and techniques. Everyone will break eventually. So I cannot definitively say whether or not he collaborated or he provided that information under duress. We don't know. We won't know that until, his statements are either corroborated or if they can be. But it is very interesting that within just a matter of days, another interview I watched, well, I believe it was the same as Sergeant Buto, who was team leader. They intercepted radio chatter from a village that was 2 miles away that stated, there's an American looking for someone who speaks English so he can talk to the Taliban. So that's another account of him actively seeking an audience with the Taliban. Again, this is secondhand knowledge. It's not been confirmed by the investigation yet, but there's so much piling up here that I don't see it. It comes down to one thing that really bothers me about the whole issue. In the active search for the next 60 days, by all accounts, and by military records, for the next 60 plus days, all Bowe Bergdahl's battalion did was look for him. That they abandoned their primary mission, and their mission became finding Bowe Bergdahl. In the process of the next 60 days, 5 soldiers died. 5 deaths are directly attributable to the search for him. Okay? That in itself, and then not just that, the amount of assets that were diverted throughout the entire theater to try and find him put a huge dent in our capabilities on the ground there. With all that in mind, we turn around and then give them back 5 of the worst, pardon me, SOBs that we had in custody to trade back for them. It boggles my mind as to what the thought processes that went through their heads in making that decision.
Well, Mike, that brings up the next part of our conversation. I mean, these are 5 really bad guys. I mean, they are the brain trusts of the Taliban. They are nothing more than trained 24/7, 365 killers that want nothing more than a bloodlust against people that they don't agree with. And why? Why would we ever submit to a trade of 5 of their trained killers for one of our soldiers, which breaks everything that this country stands for in negotiating with terrorists? Why?
Well, that's a question that the administration is going to have to answer. I've heard that they violated law because of a law that the president signed into effect, that any transfer of those detainees, Congress be given 30 days notice. I've also heard other opinions that says no, he can do that at his discretion because, well, and this is the other interesting part. We don't list those detainees at Guantanamo as prisoners of war. And I find that it's kind of funny. One of the first things I did when I found out about all this is I went to the DPMO, the Department of Defense Prisoner of War Missing Personnel website. They maintain lists of MIAs and POWs there. Bowe Bergdahl's name has never appeared on any of the lists. He is technically listed as captured. And that is also, coincidentally, the detainees are also listed as captured. We're not dealing with POWs here, in a sense. And I think that was done just out of purely political reasons. I'm still just trying to wrap my head around why all this was so quieted down and hushed up in the first place.
Yeah.
We lose faith in those institutions when things like this occur. When the truth isn't brought to light as quickly and as effectively as possible, when the truth does come out, and as we see, there's stuff flying all over the place, but more and more it looks to be a worst-case scenario here, the more respect we're going to lose for those institutions, and that's what pains me.
Mike, I want to get into another aspect of this case in the short time I have remaining, and in regards to the father, Robert Bergdahl, up at Haley. And allegedly, and I have a copy of it right here in front of me, he sent out a tweet that said, quote, "A. Balki, I am still working to free all Guantanamo prisoners. God will repay for the death of every Afghan child. Amen." What do you think about this? What about the dad? What about the at the White House speaking in a Muslim dialect and talking about Allah? All of this. I'm a little bit more than concerned about Bowe Bergdahl, the father. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'll be perfectly frank with you. That I can't even fathom what depth of despair that man has lived through over the last 5 years. That's one thing. It's hard to fathom. I can tell you right now, when my wife was also a soldier, and I was in for 20 years, and I was always the one going someplace, always deploying, always going over. And the time came when she got back into the service, and all of a sudden, she was the one leaving. I was lost for a year. I was at home taking care of our 2 teenage kids. First time for me. I can only imagine, and that's just a small taste of what he's had to go through. Mm-hmm. So I can't, it does concern me. I read the same tweet. I've watched a video that he did. I think he has gone about this in the wrong fashion. One of the primary problems I think we have in our society today is we have lost all honor whatsoever. People don't do things honorably anymore because they see no benefit to it. They see no positive outcome for themselves. And we've got to get away from that. We've got to start doing things for the right reasons in the right fashion. I just can't fathom what he went through, and it's really disturbing to me that he would take that tack.
Mike, if you had the opportunity to sit like Solomon on a throne and wrap up this story so that it would be beneficial for all parties concerned, is there at all a happy ending to this story, or is this a story that is going to go down as one of the worst things that's happened to the military in a long time?
Unfortunately, I think the latter is the case here. I don't see a positive outcome for the military. Let's say that all the first-hand accounts are incorrect, that he sleptwalked and walked away from the perimeter and was captured by the Taliban. Let's say best-case scenario for Bowe Bergdahl was that he walks away from this with with nothing. That still doesn't change the fact that our mission was altered in Afghanistan. Assets were diverted. Men died looking for him. And now we have 5 of the worst bad guys that we had custody of back in play. And you can tell me 5 ways to Sunday, well, they're in Qatar and they're supposed to stay there for the next year. Yeah, well, I tell you what, I've got some real estate, some beachfront stuff in Texas I would like to sell you, because it's not going to happen. We have displayed weakness over the last 5 years around the world, and the respect for our nation worldwide has gone down the tubes. And that's pure and simple.
Mike, let me ask you this question, and then we got to wrap things up. But I really trust, and I put a lot of stock in your opinion. The military, our Veterans Administration, and this president and this administration, it seems like they're all cogs of a wheel that are falling apart. It seems worse today with the Obama administration than ever before. There doesn't seem to be the respect for the military. What are your thoughts about where we're at right now in treating our military as the greatest fighting force in the world, but then on the other hand, when they come home, the devil be damned, they just seem to be discarded?
Well, that's been unfortunately kind of true. almost throughout the history of our nation. And I'm not saying it's indicative of the entire history, but it just seems to be that way. Whenever you go through war, when it's done, all people want to do is forget about it. That's all they want to. Okay, that's done. All right, let's move out, drive on. Let's get away from that. And unfortunately, a detrimental effect of that is on the soldier. What's going on in VA right now is unconscionable. It should not have occurred, especially since that problem has been decades in the making. I can't primarily blame the current administration, but they're still here, and the problems are still here, so they haven't fixed it with all their promises. But it comes down to the military has been losing really good people for a long time. I started seeing it in the mid-'90s when senior-level officers and senior-level NCOs and mid-career officers and NCOs started bailing out of the military because they saw what was on the horizon. I'll be perfectly frank with you. When I left in 2007, I left because I was becoming disturbed at the trends I was seeing and the directions the military was taking. It is becoming more of a political tool and a political animal, which it has been to some degree, but even more so now. So we're a fighting force, but unfortunately we're rapidly becoming a paper tiger.
Okay, short answer to this, Mike, because I am almost out of time. Is there a way, a light at the end of the tunnel, to turn this around for the respect and the honor that it deserves?
Absolutely. People on the ground. You know people, I know people. That means if I contact two people and you contact two people, now that's 6 people that know about this and know the right way and the wrong way. And those 6 people can each contact 2 people. It's exponential. We've got to stop sitting there on our laurels with our iPads on our laps and our heads in the clouds and start thinking about what truly is important in our lives. And it's not that big screen television. It's not the Nintendo or whatever else. It gives you 30 seconds of pleasure. It's those important things in life. It's the people that are around us, our family, our friends, and the people that protect us. The soldiers, sailors, Air Force, Marines, the law enforcement, the fire department. Those people are out there every day doing this for us.
Absolutely.
And we as citizens have shirked our duties in making sure things go right for them.
Absolutely. Mike, you know that you're welcome here on this program anytime. Former United States veteran, Army, Mike Greenwell, thank you so much. I absolutely am stunned as to your comments and remarks as to so eloquent and really looking at the problem and giving us answers to the problems. Please come back on the future programs. I'd love to have you.
All right, thank you, Zeb. You have a great day.
All right, thank you. Again, United States Army veteran Mike Greenwell, God's blessings to him and his family, and I really do appreciate his remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap things up, but first of all, I want you to remember your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations, absolutely with free peace of mind tire protection and free lifetime tire and mileage care. You bet. The best in tires for all your cars, your pickups, your SUVs, horse trailers, boat trailers, whatever you need tires for. Excuse me, they are the best. And easy credit plans are available too. And also, don't forget for the best in brake service, the best in front end alignment, shocks and struts, and batteries, and just absolutely everything for car care right there at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Above all, the best in service. They really take care of you. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline and Twin Falls, and Randy, my old buddy, on Overland and Burley, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Somebody I haven't thanked for a long time for the absolutely diligent and professional job they do is Gina Jameson. And Gina sits there and she listens to the entirety of the program. And I mean, she's got her fingers ready to go on the buttons for all the different things. Gina, thank you. Another great job this morning. We appreciate
You're
that.
very welcome. Anytime. That's what you pay me the big bucks for, right?
Well, I don't know about the big bucks, but there's a little currency exchanged, but you're worth 20 times that, but don't ask for that kind of a raise.
I know. But, a great interview with Bedke, and I really enjoyed and was really listening to what Mike Greenwell had to say. And he's right. We really do need to support our troops.
Amen.
It's not the troops' fault for the presidency and the administration.
Amen. Mike is just such a nice man, and I really like his straight shooting attitude. He tells it like it is, and I just wish we could incorporate him more on this program. I really respect him. Hey, by the way, tomorrow is Thursday, and you know what kind of a busy day that is. There's been changes for tomorrow.
Oh?
Yes, and I just want to inform you, we are going to have to condense and back up and make room because the governor's going to be on at 9:20 tomorrow morning for about 10 minutes.
Okay, so maybe we'll move Mort up or over.
Well, we're going to move him a little bit later and start him at 9:30. And we're going to
move Rita?
Yeah, Rita will start at about 9:35, 9:36. And like I said, everything's going to have to be condensed a little bit tomorrow. Governor Butch Otter's going to be on. We've got other people coming on from around the region. Another busy Thursday tomorrow on Zeb at the Ranch. The way things were, the way things ought to be. God bless you and your family. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06.